Hey, what's up, y'all? I have a surprise for you. In this episode, we are not going to be doing any rock work at all. Instead, we're going to be doing supports, total supports. I'm going to be supporting the lift hill, and it's going to take the entirety of this episode because I'm doing one of those thick tracked B&M supports like you see on Fury 325. I thought that was appropriate given the somewhat giga status of this ride, and I like the way those things look. I think they're very elegant looking. They give the lift and drop a real heft, so I wanted to go ahead and put that on here. So you see what it takes to do this. If any of you all don't know how to do this, you just use a lot of these track connectors, and then you put the pieces that you're using in between each piece, and of course you make an anchor point on both ends. It's fairly simple to do. Just takes a lot of time, and you can see it seems to be going pretty fast here, but just like in Planet Coaster or any other place where you're like placing rocks or scenery or anything like that, it looks a lot faster when it's sped up. It looks like it's really easy, but it takes some time. I did kind of mess it up a little bit because I made it the color of the supports instead of making it the color of the track, so I had to go back and adjust that, which you'll see me doing in just a minute. That took a little bit of time, but definitely looks better in the green color than it does in that sort of sand color that I'm using for the supports. And then once I finish this, I am going to spend about 2 minutes of the video trying to do this one little rail at the top of the catwalks at the top of the lift, and it takes forever because you have to use the free nodes, and I'm terrible at doing those things. I can never get them placed where I want them to, particularly when the coaster is not on the grid, perfectly aligned with the grid. It just takes forever to do it. Of course, if anyone knows a quick way to do it and I don't know, and you see me doing something that I'm doing wrong, just let me know. I really don't do custom supports that often. It's not something I'm that fond of doing, but I think in this instance for the lift hill it was appropriate. So, and I was trying also to, there are several places, especially in the reverse Fury 325 turn, where the supports actually go into the rock, because there was really no way for me to get around that, just because there were rocks everywhere. There was nothing but rocks. So, and I suppose I could go into SketchUp or Blender and make some footers and put them down as scenery objects to make it look like the footer is actually part of the rock, but maybe I'll do that. We'll see. But here what I decided to do instead was to make the support so they go around the rocks here. They're avoiding the rocks as much as possible. That seemed more realistic to me, and like something that B&M would be forced to do in a situation like this. So after a little bit of fooling around with it, I think it actually turned out pretty decent. You'll see in a few minutes what it looks like, and also I'll do a glamour shot or two at the end of the video just so you can see what it looks like. And of course, as always, feedback is always welcome, especially with supports, because it's not my specialty. It's not something I'm really that great at. So if you have any ideas for how I can improve them, I am perfectly happy to hear it, because this is not something that I consider myself really to be an expert at. So one thing I am thinking about doing is in the big turn after the first drop, I was thinking about actually using, well, I had two schools of thought. The first was I was thinking about putting some sunken ships there, because this is supposed to be, of course, based on the legend of the Sirens, the Greek legend of the Sirens, which sang such a beautiful song that it caused sailors to steer their ships into the rocks because they wanted to hear the song and into their doom. So I thought it would be appropriate to have some sunken ships here. So there were two ways I was thinking of doing it: either creating them in SketchUp or just using the pieces, the various support pieces, to create the skeleton of ships, which I actually think it would be easier to do it that way than it would be, for me at least, to do it in SketchUp, because I'm not all that great in SketchUp. I can do certainly simple buildings and things like that, but I think to actually create the skeleton of a ship and make it look like it was kind of decaying because it had been underwater so much would be a little bit difficult. So I really wanted to find something memorable to put at that turn. So I think I am going to do that, and perhaps even have the track at some point go through the skeleton of the sunken ships. That might add some visual interest to it, and you'll see more about what I'm talking about, the area I'm talking about, when we get down to supporting the bottom part of this drop, which is coming up right here. So part of me wants to do that, and part of me also thinks it's a little bit cheesy. I also feel like that the ship that I planted out in the ocean is just a little bit cheesy. I don't know if I'm gonna keep that or not. I like the ruins at the top; they're okay. They at least seem to fit the locale. But the ship itself, I think, it's just a ship sitting out in the water. So I don't know if I'm gonna keep that. We'll see. But I definitely think I'll give it a try. So that's going to be just some more that we'll be doing on this series, rather than just placing rocks constantly. And it'll be interesting to do, because I've never actually tried to make anything out of scenery really in No Limits. So I'll give it a try and see what we can do. It's probably very time consuming, I would imagine. Hopefully I can use the copy and paste function to make it a little less time consuming. We'll see. So right now I am just about to start on this little bar at the top of the catwalk right here, and the point of this is supposed to be just the little area, rather than have the stairs just drop off like that. There's generally either the stairs go down below the drop track, or they have some kind of bar up here to prevent, if somebody were up there, that they wouldn't just fall right off the edge. So that's what I'm placing here. I generally try to place these on my B&M rides. I don't always, but it does look good. It adds a little bit more realism, and it's fairly simple to do, although it takes some time here for me to get this right. I think mostly just because this lift is at an angle compared to the grid, so it takes me forever to get it right and moved over and in the right spot and all the settings correct. But once it's done, actually, the funny thing is you hardly even notice it, but what are you going to do? It's up there now, so at least it adds a little bit more realism. That'll probably be the most custom thing I do here, unless I do that ship. So this is going to be a short video. I will end with some glamour shots. One thing I wanted to say is, while you're watching this, I am at Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio. Hopefully by now, by the time this goes live, I will have ridden Steel Vengeance, so I can see what all the fuss is about. I'm really looking forward to some other rides at Cedar Point that I haven't been on. So I should be having a good time, and I would definitely have footage of that, all that, and all the other parks I plan to visit. So definitely stay tuned to the channel. But that's going to be it for this video. I will show you a glamour shot, and I will see you next time. Enjoy the ride.